Hey, what's going on, guys? Hey, welcome to a new episode of the Ripple Effect Podcast. This is going to be a small episode, but hopefully you don't mind, because I've got some things on my mind I want to share. So let's dive into it. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Cue the music. Hey, welcome back. So this is going to be a solo episode, a short solo episode, mainly because I have heard you, my audience. I love the fact that my audience is growing. It's diverse. You're opinionated. You're excited. You love the guests that I've been having on. But then a few of you are like, hey, Stu, it's time for a solo episode. We want to hear from you. We want that conversation to just be between us. So, okay. I've heard you. I am fulfilling that demand. But it has been great. We're coming into fall, wrapping up the end of the year. I mean, always seems like when you hit the fourth quarter that things just start taking off, don't they? I like October because it's a big October for me. I'm just going to let you in on a little secret. This is my 30th wedding anniversary. My wife and I will be celebrating our 30th anniversary on October 16th. And I am so lucky. I have been able to retain such an amazing partner in life, partner in business, and someone that just really is my rock. She is amazing. And I can't believe anybody would hang out with me for 30 years, to be perfectly honest with you. 31 if you count when we first dated. October starts the holiday season as far as I'm concerned because I'm a big Halloween freak. Love the Halloween. And then we get into Thanksgiving and then Christmas. I'm not good at coming up with Christmas gifts. I'm going to be honest with you. It's exhausting to me. So maybe some of you could suggest some really unusual, awesome gifts that I could get my wife. Fortunately, she and I are on the same page when it comes to getting the boys. Those boys are now of the age where they would rather have money, I think, at this point. But for her, it's always hard. In 30 years of coming up with, I get double screwed. Get a birthday. Her birthday is in December, right before Christmas. And then I get Christmas. I mean, it's a double whammy of pressure. Let me tell you, I don't like it. It's not bueno. So you got any great gift ideas that I haven't thought of? Send them all my way, if you would. So I promised you a short podcast episode. First and foremost, I want to thank you guys for tuning in. We've had some amazing guests, and I have heard so many positive comments about the people that I've been attracting to the show, the diversity of their experiences, their ability to want to get on the show and do a little rippling with me. I'm just so blessed. I get to spend time in the presence of masters and what they do and the ripples that they make out there in the world. And I'm just truly, truly honored. And I really think that I've found sort of my vibe, if you will, when it comes to interviewing, and some more great guests before the end of the year. So don't tune out, tune in. In fact, help us spread the ripple, wide and far. Which, speaking of which, this episode is brought to you by ripplecentral.com/pond. The Pond is our community-first effort to help bring you into the Ripple stratosphere, the Ripple universe, if you will. It's a free experience, a free opportunity for you to come in, get exposure to some great content, some great events, and some amazing people. And you come into the Pond, it's lots of options in there to check out. Go to ripplecentral.com/pond. And then once you get super acclimated, you're going to want to check out the Connect and Grow coaching membership, a 12-month amazing experience. We take what we're doing in the Pond and we magnify it by times 10. Now, that's not free. That piece you pay for, but it is a drop in the bucket in terms of the value. The 12 months of content, master classes, the TED Ripple, the seat at the table sessions. You get 2 coaching sessions with me in a year's time. That right there more than pays for the annual membership. What are you waiting on? Just go ahead and get signed up for Connect and Grow coaching membership. And you can learn more about that at ripplecentral.com as well. So with no further ado, let me talk to you today about the topic that is burning in my mind. It's the fall. Like I said, we're coming into the fall, which means it's football season. Yeah. Take it to the bank. The Dallas Cowboys are going to win the Super Bowl. Dak Prescott is going to lead us to the promised land. We're finally going to get over the hump, win the Super Bowl, and then we're going to win the next 5. So take it to Vegas. Just remember me kindly when you win big and, shoot a little money my way. I'll take it. But in the fall, one of the things that I have done since I was 22 years old is I have had my own fantasy football league. It is something I love, love, love. And we've had the majority of these guys been affiliated with this league for a long time. Clearly, since 2002, that's a long time. Anyway, it has been one of the neatest experiences because it's fellowship, it's connection. And even though I suck at fantasy football, I love it. I've only made it to the championship one time. All the other times I am vying for the bottom of the barrel. I'm always playing for next year's number 1 pick. Let's put it that way. I am like I don't know what you call the Cleveland Browns of my fantasy football league. But it has me thinking, right? One of the things that I think and I admire most about our guys that are in the fantasy league, they're nerds, total nerds. By the way, I can say what I want about them because they're not listening to my podcast because they're like, you're not cool enough for us to listen to your podcast. Plus, no offense to them, but between you and me, I'm not sure they know how to push play. Push play. They can't do it. So no fear of upsetting them or making them feel bad. That's not my intention anyway. But I will say they are nerds. Nerds. They spend so much prep time preparing, strategizing. I got guys that are like, hey, so-and-so, in the 7th grade on his 4th game in flag football before he went to tackle, mind you, he broke it for 174 yards, and that's going to predict what he's going to do in week 6 this year. They get to that level of nerdness. I show up. I probably dropped my $14 on a fantasy magazine, although this year I did not. And I had one of my best drafts ever. Of course, I started off and I'm already 1-3, but we won't. I digress. I don't want to go there. But at the end of the day, I'll show up to the draft, have absolutely no freaking clue, and I end up drafting all the old dudes because that's the only names I recognize. I don't spend the copious amounts of time and hours drafting, preparing for my draft, building for my dynasty. I just don't do it. I want to. I wish I had time, but I don't. You guys know this. I'm busy. And, I love the fact that I become sort of comic relief for the fantasy league. I mean, hell, my own son who has been in it, probably maybe less than 6 years has already won it twice. Yeah, he's a nerd. He'll listen to this maybe and he'll be like, screw you, Dad. But no, seriously, he won't listen to this. They spend so much crazy time geeking out. But it really got me thinking, what if we looked at the approach to fantasy the same way as if we went to drafting instead of a football team, we drafted for our network. Stick with me here, Great fantasy team, you need a quarterback. You need the general out there that's kind of leading down the field, right? You've got to have that. That's a pivotal player. Then you got the running back. We're going to hand it off, and you're going to go get that short yardage. You're going to get it over the goal line when we most need it. And you got your tight ends. These are the guys that are just a little bit off in the brain. They don't mind going across. They're getting smashed. Give me ball. I take it. And then you got the wide receivers. Flashy, style, pizzazz, fast, speed. And you're slinging it down the field for them. And then fantasy in our league anyway, we have special teams and defense are kind of the same thing, right? So you got to have a good defense. And that team that has your defense has to have anything you score on special teams, like, punt return, kickoff return. You get benefit for that. So, there's value in having a good, solid defense. And then you got to have the kicker. The kicker is kind of the oddball. Nobody really wants to hang out with the kicker. Nobody wants to acknowledge they're friends with the kicker. But the kicker's got skills. Somehow walks away with the hottest women, aside from the quarterback. Somehow always, working on his nails on the side while everybody else is, doing push-ups and weights and crap. but the kicker is a special oddity. So these are the positions that go into fantasy football. If you're not familiar, I'm sorry. But these I can assure you are important. And having good players that you can say, hey, I'm drafting them into my league, that I expect them to perform at a certain level for a certain period of time and get me points. That's how you win. That's allegedly how you win. I don't know because I've never won ever in the history of mankind. So anyway, I got to thinking about how do you apply that same concept? Because I'm a nerd this way. I'm a nerd when I think, wow, what if we took that same concept and we applied it to our network, our personal and our professional network? Wow, wouldn't that be interesting, right? You got your quarterbacks, you got your generals, right? What guys and girls would fall into that role, right? And then you got your running backs and your tight ends, those people that will, bust through a wall for you. Who falls into those positions? And so one afternoon, in between Zoom meetings, I'm writing on my board quarterback, running back, tight end, right? Wide receiver, my defense, special teams, and then my kicker, right? And I started looking through my network. Who are my quarterbacks? Who are my running backs? Who are my tight ends? Who are my flashy wide receivers? Who are my defense? Those people who will have my back in a moment. Those are the people that can also surprise you, like with a punt return so quick. But in work, like coming through, I got a big opportunity for you. You never saw it coming because I'm so flashy. And look at that. I'm bringing it to you. And then who are the oddballs, but the kickers? You depend on them. You win and you die with them. They're a little bit off, but they're still special. They got skills. And I got to thinking, right, as I'm going through this, where each of these people lands on my fantasy network roster. And before I knew it, I had this powerful roster of awesome people. And then I started cross-marking these people and saying, how many of you guys know each other? How many of you should know each other? How many of you know me because of certain things? And I started, I fell into that. Did you ever see that movie Brilliant Mind, where he's like all of a sudden pictures like, that was me, right? All of a sudden it was just clear to me, like all of these moving pieces and how they needed to connect with one another. And I just did that afternoon my own little fantasy network draft. And I have the most kick-ass team you could ever possibly imagine, full of amazing playmakers, people that are shape-shifting in ways you can't even imagine, people that are out there creating massive businesses and changes to the world and inspiration beyond measure, right? And as I started to put these people in and I started to be like, hey, so-and-so needs to know so-and-so and so-and-so needs to know so-and-so. And, part of a good team is to have, some collaboration, some, what do you call it? Consistency, cohesion. Yeah. So then I started using it as an opportunity to actually connect people and say, I didn't tell them because this is just between you and me. This is so freaking out there. It's weird, right? But this fantasy network gave me an opportunity to take stock of who I had and who I'd put on my fantasy team. If I had to stack it up against your team or somebody else's team, I would dominate. Let's just put it that way. I got the baddest ass team you could ever possibly imagine. And I'm darn proud of it. But many of these people don't know each other. And so I started making like these little lines and extensions and moving the pieces around and being like super Rain Man-ish about, hey, so-and-so needs to know so-and-so, and here's how I know them both, and here's the connection point, blah, 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 blah. Clearly I've had way too much coffee today. But the reality is I started looking and putting these pieces together, and of course I didn't say, hey, so-and-so, you're an awesome quarterback, and so-and-so, you're a great wide receiver. You guys need to know each other because they don't really play football. That's where this whole thing kind of comes off the tracks. But forget that for a second. I started focusing on who needed to connect with who and why. The field generals needing to make big moves down the field. They got movers and shakers that I got in my network that are part of my wide receiving core. I got people that are looking for those utility players, somebody to add to their team that they need somebody to run through a wall. And I was figuring out who on my running back, list would fit that category. And before you know it, I was making introductions to people and crap was just exploding everywhere in a good way. And things were happening. In fact, one is already interviewing for a role that I didn't even know this guy was particularly hiring for, but boom, there's a perfect fit. I just introduced somebody who is starting her own firm that needs to know another one of my quality players because they are coming at things from a different angle, but with similar interests. But combined, they are the 1-2 knockout punch. And so going through this little independent fantasy draft that I did all by my lonesome in my office, looking like Rain Man one day. I mean, really, by the end of the day, I had my whiteboard and I had my glass on my windows. I mean, it was seriously, it was weird. But I was making moves, reaching out, making connections, finding the players, and realizing there were some people that I just had to leave over in a free agent pool because I just don't like them that much. I just don't think their skill sets are all that great. No, I'm kidding. But people that haven't built that rapport with to get to say, yeah, you're definitely going to be in one of my top picks to be on my fantasy network team. And what I found is it was the funnest afternoon I've had in a long, long time. And I enjoyed the process so much that I'm thinking about hanging it up and starting my own fantasy network franchise. I'm totally kidding. But literally realizing that maybe I have a skill set for this much more than figuring out who my actual football player should be on my fantasy team. And I really, really enjoyed it. But more importantly, I actually started some ripples because of this. I created some connections and generated some momentum. And literally just yesterday, I heard from one of them that said, Steve, you're absolutely a brilliant connector. I'm like, I know. You should see my fantasy network record. I'm awesome. No teams will even take me on. I'm that good. No, I just said thanks. I appreciate it. Because I didn't want to tell them I was doing this weird fantasy thing because they're going to be like, call the padded wagon, bro. Something's wrong with that guy. I don't know. I'm not going to take any more introductions he makes because that guy's off his rocker. But in all honesty, I had a blast and it was kind of fun. And then I started to wonder if this is something I could do on an ongoing, consistent, regular basis. Maybe it is something I do when football season kicks off. Maybe I only do it once a year. Maybe I do it twice a year. I don't know. But what I did do is do something that really helped me put eyes on the people that were important to me, both in my personal and my professional network, and allowed me to create it in a way that really sort of made it real fun and really palatable for me in terms of what's important to them. There were several that I'm like, I'm well overdue for calling them, having lunch, even reaching out and just connecting, which gave me the perfect excuse to do it. I have now made it through, happy to say, my entire fantasy network roster. I've touched every single one of them. I've reached out and I've made some really positive reconnections on a lot of levels, not just introductions for them, but really between us, right, as individuals. And it has been so much fun. So am I on to something? I don't know. Am I thinking that maybe I'm the only person on the planet that will get what I'm saying? Probably. But you've listened this far, so I'm curious what you have to say about it. So hence why you probably are like, okay, yeah, now I realize why we want Steve interviewing people and not recording his own episodes, because he just goes off on tangents. And I do. But this tangent is brought to you by The Pond. It's called ripplecentral.com/the pond, not the pond, just pond, POND, /DT, that little slant that goes to the right. Yeah. Pond, Ripple Central /pond, where you can come out and you can build some unique connections, have some great content, and who knows, maybe you will find your number one draft pick for next year's Fantasy Business Network. So, guys, I really do appreciate you paying attention to this podcast. I know that this one is out there to a huge degree, but I don't care. I love it. I'm having fun with it. And it really it was a shot in the arm. Shot in the arm. And you're to blame. Your singing is so lame. Anyway, I have no idea where I was going with that. I will just say it gave me a resurgence of interest in reaching back into the depths of my player pool, my networking pool, personal and professional, and saying, you, my friend, I'm going to make you my number one pick. except they were all number one picks because I was the only one picking. But it was fun. I enjoyed it, had a good time. And maybe it just inspires you to take a look at your network just a little bit differently. All right, guys, I'll be back with another great interview very, very soon. But until then, I hope you have a fantastic day ahead. Remember to go out there, make a difference in somebody's life. You'll make a difference in your own life. And as always, you'll make a difference in the world because you're awesome. Well, and as awesome? No, as always, ripple on. Wow, Steve, you're just hyper today. I know what I'm doing.